What's up, Rube? Hey, check this out. Top 50 items I'm going over now on this new channel. So I'm going to start with, or one of the things I'm going to start with is this movie called Legend. You might remember this movie, or you might not, from 1985, starring Tom Cruise. There he is on the front. Quite a young Tom Cruise. I can't remember if this was before or after. I think this was right before he did Risky Business or right after. And Risky Business was a huge movie at the time. I remember watching as a kid. He's the main character, and he's fine as the main character, but of course his role is pretty generic. You could really fit almost anybody into that role, but he does a good job. What am I saying? Tim Curry is the Darkness, who is the devil character. The devil character, the darkness or whatever, is really the number one reason to see this movie. There's a lot of fun things about this movie, a lot of cool practical effects, amazing big sets, interesting uses of what was at that time modern special effects. But the darkness and Tim Curry's performance, sorry, I gotta sit on my leg, is to this day is one of a shining example of like somebody not getting into the role, but just being perfect for a role, and then just 100% killing it. When you see the practical makeup of Darkness, and you've seen it before, you know, just in photos or whatever, they've even made action figures of them and stuff like that. Really, really nice ones. It's so ridiculous, especially when you see the full body display of it. I think he was like 7-something foot tall or whatever with it all on. The horns, I remember as a kid wondering why his horns were so incredibly large, and they were probably longer than his arm, but they made them hollow out of fiberglass so that he could keep his head up while holding on to these giant horns. You might get a little image of him there. Almost comically huge, but it works so well. And then they've got him outfitted with abs and everything, and bright red skin, and these hoofed feet that I don't know if those were practical at the time, if he was walking kind of at an angle on a hoofed foot. But the intro to Darkness is so good when he walks out of the mirror. Lily, who was played by, I'm always forgetting her name, Mia Sara. I'm sorry about that. In fact, she's 58 now and still looks really, really pretty. She approaches the mirror, and he comes out of the mirror. That scene, I remember as a kid, is so great because when he places his hoof on the ground, the sound it makes, it gives him a weight and a power, but also a strange animal-like. It sounds like a bison stepping onto the ground. It is so effective. You know, there's not a lot to gripe about the movie because it's kind of like David Lynch's Dune or the first Star Wars or whatever, movies like that are, or The Wiz, one of my favorites of all time. I'll get to that one later, where it's almost accidentally perfect. It's very, very messy. You can see where the money was going and where they had to save a little bit, but it's more the issues I have with this movie are more to do with just technical stuff and less about the editing and all that kind of stuff. There were two versions of it. There was a theatrical version, and then the other one was, I forget what they call that one, director's cut. Or, well, I should say this. There's the American version, and then there's like a UK version, which used like an orchestra. Probably because I grew up on it, sounds great. The orchestration on the other one, on the other version, the real instruments or whatever, sounds good as well. But I grew up on the one with the cheesy music and the Yes vocals. That as a kid, I remember I knew who Yes was, but when he sang that song at the end, I remember kind of having to like, what's on with his voice or whatever. But in hindsight, I really, really like it. It's a great song. So really the gripes I have about it are kind of nitpicky, but let me know if you feel the same way. First, the audio is strange. I think what happened, if you watch production of the movie a lot, they were on the 007 soundstage, which is huge, and they built a forest, an actual forest set. It's really magnificent. Put some live doves in it, blah, blah, blah. They had to have a lot of fans and wind and stuff. Maybe they had like feathers and fairy magic and bubbles and stuff in the air. And I believe that because of the audio, they had to go back and overdub their vocal audio a lot of time. So that's still done these days, but these days microphones and invisible microphones and stuff they have are so much better that you actually have the opposite issue where sometimes it can be too hard to hear somebody speaking in a movie because they can speak so naturally quiet and stuff like that. Back then, it was a lot different. So you have some issues where it's not that it's not in sync. The voice that is re-recorded later and the actors' movements are in sync, but it just sounds off. There's a moment at the end where Darkness and Tom Cruise's character Jack are fighting, and it's a weird cut where you see Darkness talking. It goes back to Jack for a reaction shot, and when it goes back to Jack, it cuts like as though Darkness is screaming in the background. It's hard to explain. You might know what I'm talking about. But there's little moments like that. Blix, B-L-I-X, who is an amazing character, is a goblin character who was sent on this mission at the beginning of the movie, is played by a woman named Alice Playton, I think her name is. She actually did the voice for Gump, who is a character that Jack meets later, who is kind of like a fairy. They don't really explain it, which I love. I love that it's not really explained. He's like a fairy leader, but he's played by a young boy, probably 12 or something. He looks like 14, but you can tell he's like an ancient soul. He's got knowledge and he's obviously powerful and stuff like that. But his voice was done by the woman who was playing in the costume of Blix. So it kind of came out strange. Every voice except for really Jack and Lily, every other voice has kind of got some kind of effect on it, which is cool. I'm completely cool with that. But it gives the audio, the spoken audio, a few little strange quirks that I've grown to love, of course, but just are a little strange. Another gripe would be that because of all the feathers and the bubbles and the lighting, some of the scenes can be kind of hard to make out what's going on. But when you do get a really good copy of it, or you watch it really high, like a Blu-ray or whatever edition of it, and it looks really, really nice, it's funny because he's one of those type of directors, like a lot of them nowadays, like you heard about in Lord of the Rings, for example, with Peter Jackson. They put so much extra detail in there that you're never ever going to see, that it's so subtle, but it kind of fills it in your brain, kind of subconsciously, feels like this is a real thing you're seeing. So there's scenes in what I would guess you would call hell or whatever, where Darkness lives, of like these giants who are torturing people, and they have all this stuff everywhere, and it's so dark it can be kind of hard to see. But later, as you see it in a nice quality, you're like, man, they did the dressing is amazing. Lily is great. She was played by, if you ever saw Ferris Bueller's Day Off, she played his girlfriend in that. Totally a beautiful young woman, and she does this really interesting kind of transformation, you think, when you first see it, into like an evil character. They have her dressed up in this goth makeup and dress, and it's just so strange. You've never seen anything like it. Now we have, of course, but at the time it was really, really unique. There's a fantastic scene where Lily is kind of being seduced by Darkness, Tim Curry's devil character, and this like mannequin creature comes to life and is dancing with her, but it's faceless. It has just a practical. It's like a tight pull over its face, but it's so effective and really, really well done, especially as it gets closer to her. You can feel this kind of tension. Fantastic moment where Darkness is leaning over Lily and she almost vomits from the fear. She's just under this. He's just looking at her like she wakes up and this creep, 8-foot-tall devil's looking at her. So it's filled with so many fun little moments like that. I think you should definitely go check it out. Easy, probably top 10 to the third or fifth movie, just because of the effect it had on me. But also now that as I watch it, I appreciate the practical effects so much more. And the performances are really, really good. Even with the audio issues, everybody's acting is really, really nice. Even the horse who plays the unicorn. So go check it out. You can buy it for dirt cheap. You can get the fancy ones if you want, or just rent it on YouTube for $3. You could probably watch it for free on Prime or something. Go watch it. It's a really, really fun movie. Safe for families, pretty much. So, but if you have younger kids, they'll probably get a little scared. So anyway, enjoy. Bye-bye. Bye.